everybody. I'm here with my dad, William Davis. He's a lifelong martial artist, 28 years practicing and also teaching Aikido at Southern Oregon University. And he was a Bikram yoga teacher for many years. He's the one who introduced me to Bikram yoga. And now he's a Hanna Somatic educator for the last 10, 12 years.
Yeah, since I got certified, last 12 years.
12 years,
yeah.
Yeah. And you also attend as a teacher's assistant on the trainings.
I've done that a bunch.
You're a bunch on this teaching staff for
Right.
the Hanna Somatic educator training.
I am.
Yes. And so today we're here to talk about some of the changes that he's experienced from practicing, having a daily practice of Hanna Somatic education, along with changing his diet. Because last year, around April, May, my dad changed his diet. As my husband, myself, and I also changed our diets. He decided to do that with us. So we're going to talk today about some of the things that he's experienced, not only in his time as a Hanna Somatic educator, but also over the last year changing his diet. So Dad, tell us a little bit about your physical history.
You see, I had an injury from a car accident when I was in my early 20s that put my back into pain.
You were on a motorcycle and a car hit you.
I was on a motorcycle and a car hit me, and it took a lot of chiropractic help, and I recovered, but not completely. There was always some pain in my low back, and at different times in my life I did the right gesture and aggravated that. So
kind of throwing your back out for a week or more, and then
or more. Sometimes it was months of pain.
Yeah.
But it was consistent pain. It was either kind of a little bit of pain or a lot of pain.
From the car accident.
From the car accident. Yeah.
And then what happened to your right leg?
Now, was it 1994? I crushed my heel.
What were you doing that you crushed the heel of your leg?
I was helping install a solar water heater, and I fell off the road.
Fell off a roof and landed on your heel.
Yeah, well, actually, I landed on both feet, but there was a concrete paver that my right foot landed on, and the other foot landed on the soft soil.
Okay, and so then that also really affected your life, and you
it was horrible.
You were walking with a limp for a long time.
For a long time, and it took me, a year to get to the point where I was willing to actually step out of the house. But yeah, it exacerbated what was already going on in my spine and my back. Because of the limp and because of the way that my nervous system had adjusted to that pain. Yeah.
Right. And so what things, now you're a Hanna Somatic educator and you've gotten a lot of pain relief through that.
Oh, yeah.
But what things did you try before Hanna Somatics that helped a little bit or didn't help? Or what things did you have that were in your toolkit before Hanna Somatics to help your body with pain?
Right. So mostly it was getting help from others, though I would take hot baths, that helped. But chiropractic, little acupuncture, massage. I practiced Bikram yoga because I believed that it helped, and it did help. And it really wasn't until I learned about it and started practicing Hanna Somatic education that I actually got relief from that low back pain.
Okay, so things helped, but there wasn't the same kind of resolution.
Right.
For you.
It wasn't. It also those other things didn't actually equip me, so that I had tools to do.
You always needed a hot room, or you always needed to go see somebody to get that relief.
Right.
You needed somebody else,
right.
A teacher to teach or something.
Yeah.
But so what is different about Hanna Somatics is that you are able to do this for yourself anywhere that you are without a specific environment or a specific person there, because you know how to do your own work inside yourself.
I've changed how my nervous system addresses contractions. I've lowered the resting level of a lot of muscles in my, I've lowered the resting level of muscles in my body to the point where when a muscle goes into contraction and my nervous system knows how to decontract those muscles. I don't have to.
And you can consciously do it.
And I can just take a few moments and contract and release, and it will release.
Nice, yeah. And so what are some of the very specific things that are different about Hanna Somatics than other kinds of things people do, modalities, exercises that people do? What sets Hanna Somatics apart from those things?
Well, so the pathway, the neurological pathway that I use when I do this pandiculation or
Hanna Somatics,
that pathway actually lowers the resting level of the muscles that we're working with.
What does that mean, lower the resting levels of the muscles?
Well, it's based on the notion of general tonicity of muscles in our body and activities.
So tension, you're talking about tension.
Tension, but it's not just tension that we feel. Mostly we don't feel it.
Okay.
It's just generally what happens. If you remember, if you ever hang out with an infant, their body is really pliable, and so they've contracted muscles and learned patterns of movement so they can move around in the world.
But their bodies aren't hard and stiff.
Well, and it takes time as the infant grows into childhood all the way into adulthood and then beyond. That person gets stiffer and stiffer and stiffer, and the trajectory is that eventually we will get to the point we're not mobile at the end of our lives.
You mean like when we're really old and at the last few years, most people are,
Well, it doesn't be. It can be that way in somebody in their 40s.
Oh, right, or in
Right.
your 20s, you could become feeling like an old person.
Exactly.
So you don't, yeah, okay.
Right.
So it's because of this level of tension that accumulates over time in our
Right.
bodies, and that's what you're saying. Hanna Somatics lowers the resting level of the muscle, so it changes the tension that you're carrying as a baseline.
Right. Now, if we have injury, like I had the injury to my back, then there's specific work that I would do to address that. The injury that came from limping on my right foot. There's specific things to do to change that.
Right, and then
Right.
there's overall patterns of
movement, and everything else that we do raises the resting level.
So everything else that we do, meaning like just walking around,
Just
living
walking
life,
around, getting up, getting down, injuries,
or sports, or
lifting
Aikido.
weights, or Aikido, all of that stuff.
it raises the resting
raises
level.
the resting level.
Okay.
Right. And this is the only thing I found that lowers the resting level.
Hanna Somatics does that, yeah.
Does that, right.
And what do you think about having changed your diet in the last year? Can you tell us a little bit about like how you were
Right.
eating before and then how you're eating now?
Yeah, so I had already eliminated eating beef, and I had an ethical reason for letting go of eating seafood, and I was still eating chicken, and I was cooking with chicken, chicken broth and sometimes chicken fat. I thought that I found it to be delicious, and
coconut oil. You were pretty into coconut
oil and.
But you still ate vegetables. You still
Oh
ate
yeah,
salad.
I ate good salads. I got really good at salads.
But you would always put dressing on them
and
that
it
was
creamy. I would drench it in dressing that was
yeah.
And it was salt and sugar, And then when you invited me to take a look at that book, Eat to Live, and I read it, I was really quite disturbed because I thought I was eating healthy, and what I realized was that there was a completely other level of health that our diet had, our diet doesn't really address.
Okay.
Right. And
so
I changed my diet.
What issues were you having? What kind of you think prompted me to be concerned about you and really wanting to change your diet?
Yeah, I was born with a heart murmur, so I knew I had challenges with my heart, and I had done things to mitigate most of that. Well, at least some of that. What was still going on was my blood pressure was moderately high. And I had to do something every day because I had experienced angina, so I did something for my heart every day. And because I had a heart murmur at birth, and it was still going on.
Right.
There still is irregularity. Every doc I saw, none of them said, "Oh, you got heart disease." They just said, "Oh, just a little irregularity." And then when I saw a specialist, they said, "Yeah, if you're able to do the stuff that you're doing, you're fine." And then I read Eat to Live, and I realized, well, I may be fine, but I'm destined for heart disease when I get older if I don't change my diet.
Okay, that's what you realized when you were reading that book. Yeah. And were you overweight?
Yes.
Yeah. And how much weight did you lose changing your diet?
Anywhere from 35 to 40.
Really?
Pounds.
See, I think I told everybody you lost 25 pounds, but you lost
more.
Well,
I did lose 25 pounds.
I
lost
some,
25
and some.
Right.
Okay.
It depends on the day and the time of the day.
Right. Okay. So then how you were eating compared to how you eat now. What are you eating now? What do you eat, and what do you not eat?
Well, I eat a lot more fruit. I eat mainly fruits and vegetables. What I don't eat white flour anythings anymore. I don't eat animal products or eggs. No dairy anymore. Refined oils, very, very minimal refined oils. Minimal salt. I don't put salt on my food.
But you're
anymore.
eating a lot of beans now too.
I'm eating a lot more beans. Yeah.
in soups and things like this.
Yeah, in soups and stews.
And how's your blood pressure now?
It's, it's really much better. It's like, it was 145 over like 92, and now it's more like 122, 125 over like 78.
And you've seen it even lower than that in the last few
There have
months
been times when I've seen it really quiet, down like 104 over 66, I think it was, or 68.
And that's not too low. That's a good blood pressure.
Yeah, it's a good blood pressure.
Yeah.
Right. So so right now, last time I took my blood pressure, I think it was 125 over.
And do you know what's maybe caused it to go up a little bit more?
Well, because I still want some salt. I love salt,
yeah.
but I know it's not.
You know the salt's going to raise your blood pressure, but you enjoy it, so it's kind of this little back and forth.
A little bit. What I haven't done, which is recommended in the book, is that I haven't done the 6-week
reset.
I just changed my diet and quieted down all those other things, listening to what's in the book. It looks like Jonathan's gonna join us.
Hey babe, I'll be right out, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Life with a 3-year-old.
Okay, go downstairs and I'll be right there, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, that was my son asking a question. But yeah, so you've changed a lot in the last year about how you eat, and you also have a daily Hanna Somatic practice, and you've had that for how long?
Well, really for 12 years I've had a daily, and actually the last 3 years, 2-3 years, I started adding a second session, so I would do 2, and then the last 3 months I've been working at 3.
So 3 practice sessions a day of Hanna Somatic movement. And how long is a practice session? How long does it take you?
It usually takes me 10 minutes, 12 minutes, something like that.
Okay, and then you do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes midday, 10 minutes at night right now?
I try to, when I can. And I like to do the one in the middle of the day in the sun so I get some vitamin D.
Nice. And then why did you change it from 2 to 3? Like, why did you decide to do more?
Because about 2 to 3 years ago, I started experiencing peripheral neuropathy, numbness, and kind of this sensation in the bottoms of my feet.
Okay.
I think it came from the way that I was doing Aikido.
Okay.
And
a lot of intense contractions of your legs.
A lot of intense contractions. In the Bikram yoga, it was a lot of intense contractions in my legs. And I have done came up with a variety of different movements for specific areas along that pathway from the feet, to the center of my body. But it wasn't going away fast enough for me.
It wasn't going away fast enough, so you decided to bump up your Hanna Somatics.
Right, so I decided, well, let me see, what would happen if I did 3 times a day?
Okay. And what are you experiencing? What's the result of that?
It's quieting down.
The peripheral neuropathy is slowly going away?
It is. In the area of my foot that's got the numbness and the spark sensation has gotten smaller, and then the level of the sensations has diminished.
Nice.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you compare, how you felt last year with, your blood pressure, and the concerns you had about your heart compared to now, right? Would you say that changing your diet changed the trajectory of where you were headed in regards to heart disease or your general health?
Certainly.
Yeah. And then in terms of how you were before you were practicing Hanna Somatic education, has Hanna Somatics changed how you are aging, like compared to other people who are your age?
Oh yeah, I'm more mobile, and I don't wake up stiff. A lot of people my age, and even younger, they'll wake up in the morning and be stiff and tired, and and I don't wake up that way.
Do you have daily pain like you used to in your 30s?
No. I did. Definitely when I broke the heel bone, I had pain in my foot, and I had pain in my legs, and in different places in my body, but now I don't.
You don't. So you don't have to live with chronic pain in your body. And then when it comes up, you can just do something about it.
Right.
I said that earlier. You can just do something about the pain.
Sometimes it's in my foot, and then there's some simple movement I do with my foot, and then just a couple of movements, 2 or 3 movements, and
the pain goes away.
It goes away.
That's amazing, right?
Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool.
So you work with a lot of different people. Doing Hanna Somatic education with them. A lot of people who are in pain, but you also work with people who are not in pain necessarily, but have other issues. Can you talk a little bit about the other issues that Hanna Somatics can help with?
So, mobility can be hindered by contractions or injuries. Now, oftentimes that immobility is accompanied with pain, and that's something that's pretty clear to address. But I have a client who who was deprived of oxygen at birth, and she has these really kind of strange movements, contortions of her hands, and a little twitching in her neck and shoulder.
Isn't it called dystonia?
Well, that's what they call it, but it
Okay.
dystonia itself doesn't really mean anything.
Okay.
But she has these very specific movements, and I've been working with her, and it's quieting down her nervous system. It's allowing her to actually do some really basic functional things that she couldn't do before.
Oh, really? With her hands?
With her hands, like something as simple as is walking across the room with a cup of tea without spilling it, or putting vegetables in a plastic bag at the market. Those things were not that easy to do. Were really, really challenging. And now
For most of her life.
For most of her life, she's in her 20s now. She actually, I think, we've been working about 3 years. We've done a lot of work.
And does she do practice every day?
She does.
And what does she notice from it?
She loves it to begin with. There's a moment of, it's really a wonderful thing that I have something I can do, and my hands quiet down.
Her hands quiet down after she does these movements with the rest of her body.
Right. Yeah. Because it addresses what her nervous system is.
It addresses what her brain is doing to its muscles. Nice.
Yeah.
So the work that I've been doing is combining these two things, which is kind of what you have been experiencing in the last year.
Right.
And it's my belief that if people change the way that they're moving in their bodies by changing their brain's relationship to their musculature,
right.
And if people address their gut health and the food that they're taking in, and start taking in foods that actually heal and support their bodies, that it will change the trajectory that people might be on. If somebody's living in pain
right.
or knows that their digestion isn't working well,
mm-hmm.
would you agree that that's a pretty powerful recipe for changing?
It's an incredible recipe. In fact, I'm really proud of you for coming up with it. I hadn't thought to put the two together, but I have put the two together.
But you put the two together in your body.
Right. But the diet part was your invitation. It wasn't something I was.
You were thinking about doing.
I mean, I saw the book when it arrived here before you read it, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting something. But I hadn't thought to read it. But from what you just simply said, I want you to do this with me.
Right. Yeah. Well, I care about you, and I want to see you live well and not
mm-hmm.
have a heart attack, and be enjoying your time with your grandson, my son, much longer. I want him to have a grandpa for longer, and to have you telling me you have high blood pressure and worrying about your heart was not something that I could just stand by and keep watching when suddenly I had new information for you. Right. So. That's kind of where I've landed up with a lot of this stuff is now that I know what I know, I can't help but want to share it with people who might be struggling, who might be confused, who might be trying to figure out why these things are happening in their bodies
mm-hmm.
and looking for solutions. Because we've found some pretty great solutions, wouldn't you say? I
agree. And I didn't realize until I just thought of it right now that I guess I'm one of your guinea pigs because I'm in this age range where life gets harder and harder. People my age and don't get on the floor because they can't get off the floor.
That's true. And I know people in their 30s who were having such bad knee pain they couldn't get up and off the floor. Right. So it's not just about being old, but you're right. I think a lot of older people are paying attention more to their health because they have to. Right. And younger people are kind of granted a little bit more permission to not worry about that for a while. Right. So thanks for coming in and talking about all this today. Is there anything you want to share with our audience about what the bigger benefits, the bigger scope of Hanna Somatic's offers, since that's really an area of your expertise?
Yeah. So it really offers freedom, and it's something that you and I could do every day. It doesn't have to take a long time, and it has this effect broadly across my life in terms of my ability just to get up and walk across the road.
Right. It makes it easier.
It makes it easier
to move around.
I met a guy that had the injury the same injury that I had while I was recovering, and he had done it 20 years earlier, and he was limping around seriously in pain.
Right. And you and I see those kind of people. We work with people
Right.
who are having a lot of pain, and then we do some Hanna Somatics. And
Right.
once their nervous system gets it, right, like once their brain understands what we're doing, and it takes some time. It doesn't
Right.
happen right away.
Right.
It takes a number of sessions and
Mhm.
takes some concentrated effort on their part.
In regular practice.
For
yeah.
them, for their nervous system to get, oh, I don't have to hold this tension. I don't
Right.
have to hold this pain.
Mhm.
And then now they're more free.
Yeah.
Now they can move around and they can do
Right.
things that they haven't been able to do. And
Yeah.
that's like really amazing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a client who came to me because she had a knee replacement and was worried about replacing the other knee.
Yeah.
And after we did some sessions and she started taking this on as a practice, this was some years later, she sent me a text on her vacation to Japan where she said, I spent the whole day walking around and then I came back to the hotel and I did my cat.
Cat stretch.
The cat stretch, yeah, which is the
somatic
main
movements.
thing that we recommend. And she said, and I just feel so relieved that I have something I can do about it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's very liberating because, like we were saying at the beginning of this talk, you don't need anybody else to
Right.
do this, to address your own pain
Right.
and your own challenges in your body. You don't need some specialist
Right.
or a specific environment or a specific teacher. You become your own teacher,
Right.
and you can
Well,
work on,
but at the onset, though, it is really, really helpful to have
Oh,
somebody who knows
yeah.
what they're doing.
Well, in the
know.
onset, this isn't like anything else that anybody
Right.
usually has done,
Mhm.
because like we were saying before, also everything's usually about engaging muscles
Right.
rather than releasing them.
Right.
Right? And this is about relaxing and releasing muscles. So most people's brains just haven't been doing that.
Right.
So it does take time, like you said, to adjust to
And,
it.
and some focus and a little bit of commitment.
And commitment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the difference in your clients who have a daily practice versus clients of yours that don't take on a daily practice? What's the big difference in
Well,
what they get?
More lasting effect, and more relying on it as something to go to when they have pain or they have something.
Like they
happen.
remember, oh, I can do this thing.
Right. Yeah.
Versus
Exactly.
clients who just did a few sessions and have less pain now, but
Mhm.
don't think to do it when they get hurt.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, so they're not taking it on in a bigger scope of their life.
Right.
Right.
And it really diminishes the likelihood of injury.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Because the body is less tight to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's see, is there anything that you would share with people about the challenges that you've had, whatever kind, in changing your diet? Like, how is that a difficult thing to do? Like, is there still things that are difficult about it?
Yeah. I miss the salt. And there are moments when I'll smell French fries cooking and I'll think, oh, those might be delicious. And then I have to remind myself, and I do remind myself that isn't really going to help me.
Right.
And so the challenge is that the rest of the world eats food that's going to result in heart disease, diabetes, and or cancer. And I said this to a friend of mine recently, that if I got cancer, I wouldn't have to change my diet. I'm already eating.
You're already eating an anti-cancer diet.
Yeah.
So it's probably less likely you're going to get cancer eating an
Right.
anti-cancer diet.
Right.
Okay.
And so there's a sense of relief and kind of an emotional.
Maybe a little
relief.
bit more freedom too.
Right, more freedom for sure. A little more difficult going to a restaurant,
Right.
but more freedom in terms of kind of my outlook. Because I was born with a heart murmur, and I know that my heart would probably be a challenge, and I'm less concerned about that now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing
welcome.
with us today and
Mhm.
talking a little bit about how it's been for you as a Hanna Somatic educator. What it's been like changing your diet, going from eating a pretty heavy diet in oil and salt
Right.
and animal products to
Yeah.
much, much, much less of that.
Mhm.
That's a big step to take at 66 years old.
Right.
Yeah. But you do think like you're going to continue with all this?
Yeah. It's part of it is, I am going to continue with it. I live with you, so there's reinforcement there.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
and also because I heard what you said when we first had that talk last spring, which was that you're my daughter and you have concerns about my well-being into my later years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks everybody. This has been my dad, William Davis, here to talk about somatics and healing with plant foods, or changing the way that you're eating so that the foods that you're eating are actually helping you, or actually feeding your brain. They're helping keep illness out of your body. And he's been, like he said, one of my guinea pigs. So let us know if you have any questions for him about somatics or about, you know, how it's been to change his diet. Because he's done it. He's been doing it.
All right.
All right. Bye, everybody.